This is the Unspecialed Podcast. I'm joined with Thomas Ryan, Instagram handle Spectrum and Camouflage. I like that. I like that handle. We'll get into what the name of that. His dad, husband, business owner, volunteer firefighter, autism advocate, is the father to Wyatt. And we're just going to get into all things autism and Thomas's story and journey. So thanks for being on. Appreciate it.
Man, thanks for being here. This is exciting. I love creating forward motion, man.
Yeah, 100%. Let's go straight to it. What did you think about the most recent? I'm going off script here, but
Right. I love
the
it.
most recent cabinet meeting with Trump and Kennedy, President Trump and Kennedy, when Trump's asking Kennedy for an update and he calls autism
And
a horror show.
a horror show, yeah. Well, and that's actually what I spouted off a little bit about the other day, that we won't get into that specific occasion. But here's the thing. In this
And
space,
real quick, just for all the listeners, this is coming from a dad who has a son with profound autism, of which I believe President Trump and Kennedy are misunderstood. This is what they are talking about. So now we're talking to a dad who lives the life.
And I appreciate you breaking that down, because I do think that, this is a sensitive space, and, no one wants their baby to be called ugly. And I think that that is the way that a lot of people have taken it. And I do think that the spectrum is so broad. I think the ones that are voicing a lot right now are the ones that, yes, they have some social cues or they have some OCD tendencies. But when you dive into the families, the tens of thousands of families that have children that are 8, 9, 10 years old and still can't use the bathroom, they still can't speak, and they're up all night long, they're biting, they're fighting. Wyatt, my son, we have come so far with him that, and we can get into that more later on some of the things that we've done, because there's a lot of really cool things that I think need to be talked about. When you're talking about what Trump and Kennedy, who are of an old age mentality, that don't have bedside manner, that grew up in a totally different time. We all have that grandpa or grandma that says the inappropriate thing, and it's like everybody knows those people. Well, the fact is those people still exist in a place of power and don't always have correct quote unquote terminology and are on camera all the time. But to me, I wasn't even fazed by what he had to say, because the children are not the horror show. The fact that something is on the rise, which is indisputable, and the fact that when we were kids, we're talking 1 in 10,000 kids were diagnosed with autism, and on Google, which if you dive into a lot of different other places, but on Google is now 1 in 32. And that is actually higher in different states. It's 1 in 12 I saw out in California.
Yep. And
So it's like
25% of the 1 in 12 profound.
Right, right. Well, in a recent episode where I was talking, I think it was specifically on this episode or this cabinet meeting where I was talking about it. Australia has had, it was like 41% increase in autism from 2018 to 2020 or 22, and 71% of those are profound autism.
Wow.
So, and the thing is like people don't understand, and I don't want them, I don't want anyone to have to understand what goes on that is a horror show. But the drownings that are happening, there's an autistic child in the news all the time that has drowned or run out in the road or eloped. People are having to lock their doors 15. I mean, we used to have to lock our doors 15 ways to Sunday. It was just everything that we could do to keep our son from escaping. Now, again, we are living a lot more reserved life, but in regards to their terminology, I think we have to look past our own personal opinions on what we think of Trump or Kennedy, because I do think that their interest is in uncovering why this is happening so much. We can't not agree that everybody knows someone with autism at this point.
Right. Oh, that's well said. Yeah. it's I think it's hard for society or people to see it unless you've witnessed profound autism firsthand. And
Well, everybody thinks like Rain Man or something that's just quirky, but they're geniuses or they're savants. All these, and everybody wants to talk about all these really important people that were autistic. There's some oh shoot, I can't think of their names right now, but there's a list of like really well known, awesomely successful people that were on the spectrum. Well, on the spectrum, and now there's the level 2, level 3, whatever, but it's like when you are profoundly affected that you can't use the toilet on your own at 10, like it's not like I'll do that my whole life, but again, like that child without me needs something extremely intense, really intense care. Well, that doesn't exist. The amount of people that are going to be staring down the barrel of where is my child going when I can't care for them anymore, that is horrifying.
yeah,
I know where kids go. Like, there's houses up on the lake that I've worked around that are group homes. Maybe they're the most amazing people in the world, but to think that my son could be in a group home, that is horrifying. So again, I didn't mean to cut you off, but go ahead.
no, that's spot on. And I think back to my first 2 years teaching. It was a profound autism program, non-speaking, violent, and for 6 hours a day, it was like high stress. I could never not look over my shoulder. Every kid had their own zone in the class. Everyone had a one-on-one aid. It was extremely violent. Stuff was broken every single day. I had numerous staff go to the ER from bite marks. Blood is drawn, you're gone. And I think that's just the side of autism nobody sees. And now with Kennedy and Trump talking about it, it's starting to get out in the light. And to a certain extent, yeah, the words that are used can be offensive, but maybe that's the kind of words that need to be used for real light to be shed on what
Yes.
families go through.
I do think that unfortunately to get any forward motion, people have to get ticked off. I mean, there's a lot of questions on how we've gotten into different wars in different times, but it's like people have had to get riled up to join into uncomfortable situations for centuries. And so I wouldn't doubt that they weren't told to say that if by their people if they really want to create difference. And the fact is like people don't want to admit that something we could or may not be doing could be affecting our children. And like if something comes out that something happened that I did to my son or let my son do, ingest, whatever, fill in the blank, there's going to be a grieving period where there will find, even though I've felt a certain kind of way, because my son was very typical. My son was, he had his words, he had all these different things. And then one night the lights went out. And it was like, if I find out that it was something that we did, there is going to be an intense grieving period because all of these things that I've wondered will be true. And that'd be hard to not place your blame as a parent. So I do think that there's a resistance in, we've already figured out how to live a very hard life and we've already made, okay with where everything's at. But then to find out that something we allowed to happen possibly to our children or could have been you know, negotiated a little bit better, could have been the cause. Man, that'll be heavy for a lot of people. And I think a lot of people, since they've just come to be comfortable with it or live with it, just don't want to know. And that's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, that's intense. I mean, I had a handful of parents of students I taught that would say this exact thing. I can remember exactly one situation where a parent, uh, she said she didn't want to know what caused it because she would be too, it would be too intense for her to think that she would have to live with something she did.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's real. Yeah, that's intense.
But that's where I guess I would ask any parent listening to this that might be feeling like stressed at what I could be hinting at, and it is just the fact is if that is causing something or things that we're eating or microwave, who knows? Like just fill in the blank. Let's just use our imagination for a second. What could be it? Would you not want to tell your niece, your nephew, your children that like, hey, this is actually something you really would want to consider maybe not doing because it ups your chances this much for blah, blah, blah. And just giving them the education. Yes, accepting that we just didn't have that education. So how could you be hard on yourself? Everything was maybe pointed to this specific thing. And so you have to accept the fact that you only know what you know and you have to trust somebody. And in some instances, unfortunate things happen. But if we can all come together and see that something is making this worse or causing it, we're saving tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of other potential lives from having to struggle with the same way. And I can live with that.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
that's the only way I can square with it.
Yeah. I was just talking to my wife about this thing because, as I've shared on Instagram, we're going through a cancer journey, and
Been thinking of you guys.
I've even got some feedback from people in our lives on decisions I've made that they didn't necessarily jive with. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, all right, can we just have a little grace right now for
Yes.
like, obviously I haven't been through a cancer journey. So maybe I'm going to make some wrong choices. Maybe I'm going to make some right choices. And then I would think back to families going through the autism journey or special needs journey. And instead of like the high end of the spectrum to the profound side of the spectrum, it seems like they're always fighting.
Yes.
Whereas like, what if we just had grace for everyone? Like everyone's on their own journey. Everyone's on doing the best they can with what they know. And instead of like, oh, that was a horrifying word, you should never use that word, or you're over here glorifying autism, which they don't see eye to eye. It's just like, can everybody just
Can we just get
relax?
along? Yeah. And that's where, like I said, when I apologized the other day for, spouting off, it's like that is not at all what I wanted to bring to this space, because it's like I do a lot of negotiating. I do work with a lot of people, and some of my hope is to help more people get along, because it's like the groups are too clicky. And I will say, and like I've followed a lot of different people. I follow all thought processes. I try to follow people that I don't agree with. Obviously I enjoy following people that I do agree with. But it's like there are so many different sides to this. What I am seeing though more and more is it does seem like the big social media movers have had great success stories, or a lot of children that are on higher, not high support. I can't find the word right now. It's not. They have more function than what someone would like with. They're not non-speaking. I can't think of the word, but anyways, there's not enough people to me talking about the other side, where it is the non-speaking, the biting, the violence. All of the eloping. Now, one of your recent ones, she was talking about how like fences, like how great fences would be, and it's like, yeah, that is great. Now, I will say that there was a period of time where there wouldn't have mattered what was there. My son was finding out how to get away.
Yeah.
So it's like, I loved what she was saying though, because it's just like, yes, we do need to have more. And why wouldn't we want it for any of our kids? It's like, it's just an extra safety precaution that you can take your eyes off your kids for a little while. But I guess where I was going with it is just it seems to be a lot more people talking about the higher end of the spectrum rather than the profound, because it's like, well, it's like they're savants. They have these really cool talents. They're all these different things. They might be able to speak. And I'm so happy for them and so thrilled that they can be creating any forward motion. Any awareness is amazing. But then don't get upset with, me on the other side, where I am looking for answers, because I've been accused of, you want to fix your child. You're not happy with your child. No, my child saved my life. I'm very confident that had this not happened in my life, I would be I wouldn't say that I would be a crappy person, but I wouldn't be the man that I'm trying to be by any means. You find success in a little bit earlier life, and you have stuff, and you blah, blah, blah. It's like you don't have any real worth until you have some struggle. Now, I would have loved God to give me any other form of struggle to bring me down, but this is something that, my son saved my life. So my point is though, is like, I'm not trying to change my child or fix my child because I'm unhappy with him. He is the bomb. but you go to fix a broken leg, you go to, if you know that your child has a fever, you give them Motrin, they break their arm, you go get it set. They have cancer, you do whatever you can to get it away from them. But then when I talk about all the things that I talk about, like where I'm trying to help my son heal,
Yeah.
cool, man, you get a firestorm.
Yeah.
And, and it is from the upper side of this is like, your son's perfect the way that he is. And I trust that he is exactly the way that God intended this. But if he can find any more health or any more ability to live at a higher quality of life, then I'm going to do it. I've said it a million times. Obviously, I've not said it to you, but it's like I'd fly my son to a deserted island that has a pool on it that maybe healed someone 1,000 years ago just to say that I did it.
Yeah.
So then that way I can know that I tried everything. And if this is where we're at, then I'm going to, gosh, we're going to be buddies forever. It's like so again, there's just a level of sensitivity that I'm found, and I'm trying to step softly because I'm proud of anyone that's taking time out of their life to advocate for autism.
Yeah.
Anyone. I don't have to agree with everything they have to say. It's just they're, and like, with the Kennedy thing, it doesn't matter if someone has 100,000 followers, which I know a lot of them that do, but that's still a drop in the bucket to what Trump and Kennedy just did. You've heard the word autism more in the last few months than it's ever been said anywhere. So it's like, if you can only agree with the bad publicity is good, any publicity is good publicity
Yeah.
mindset, then it's got to be good for our community.
Yeah. Wow. No, that's I think you hit the nail on the head. And I get confused or taken back by if you want better, it's kind of deemed as like you don't like autistic people. Or it's like I think of my kids. I want I want the stars for them. And I'm going to do
Yes.
anything to get them that. And that's kind of what
Yes.
I think, where in my mind, logically speaking, like from an objective standpoint, it's like, why wouldn't we want better for the autistic community?
Yes. And it is like I said, I'm gonna continue to probably make people mad here or there, but maybe I'll make people really happy. But it's like,
Right.
it's not that I am unhappy with who he is. His personality is cool as a cucumber, a chunk of the time, sweet, like you'd never know a part of the time. But then there's a part of time, half the time where he is kind of like outside of his lane, and you can see it in his eyes where he's just not together, and he's almost like strung out, and you can see that he's not well.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, if you saw your child acting off or sick, you would do anything. And you'll go to any length to get them to the right college, to get them to the right coach, to get it, make sure their grades are up. But then again, when I talk about things that I'm trying to do with my son, I've gotten a lot of eyebrows like, well, it's not fixable, or it's not that. Well, we do know that autism is directly linked to gut health in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So, I mean, gosh, well, then let's just work on their gut health and see where they go. They have potential to at least feel better. Who wants to have an upset stomach all the time?
Right.
So then if we get that fixed, and healing could naturally come, because the body is an amazing thing,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it can actually heal. It's like we all agree, like a cut on our finger can heal. What else could it do? And it's like, I'm not trying to send him to a military school to beat this out of him. I'm just looking for any way that I can make his life better. And I do think more people, if they would open their minds to that, even the on the spectrum that don't have the same support needs, could benefit.
Yeah.
And why would we not? It's not a dirty word to grow and to be healthier. And I mean, anything like that.
Yeah. I'm excited. In a couple weeks, I'm going to record with a buddy, and he's a pastor, and I'm going to
Nice.
ask him all these questions relating back to the Bible and God, and is healing possible, and so forth. It might be controversial, but at any rate, in society, what isn't controversial? You can't say anything.
No, well,
So
there's a lot of people that can say whatever they want, but there are people that I would say that are more, I'm already vibing that we're so much on the same page. It's like taboo to even say this stuff. And it's like, the one doctor that I want to talk about here at some point that we're working with Wyatt, he's a chiropractor, and he said it so well. And he's just like, you can't put God in a box. and when you get the body and the nervous system back online, like what the possibilities are, and then again believing that not putting God in the box is like there's hope in anything. We've not ever medicated Wyatt. We have never had him diagnosed. It's like so, and we've actually had a recent conversation with a few people where they thought that we had him diagnosed and we hadn't. And it's just like, I mean, the thing is like, I'm not looking for any help in, I need to watch how I say some of these things. It's just like early on, there was huge resistance because my son was looking back, like I can see some red flags. Like if I see a young kid now that's like teetering on the spectrum, like I can see him from a mile away. Like it's just, this is what I do now. You as a teacher, I get, you can see it the second they walk in the room.
It's like our sixth sense.
Yes. And looking back now, it's like, okay, I could see what was happening now, but like, he spoke. I've got videos of him saying, I love you. He had several, he made cute animal noises and faces and had great eye contact. And, he was the child that everyone wanted to hold. There was no tantrums. We literally never scolded him through 2.5. He was just perfect in every way. Now, again, looking back, I can see that there were some flags and they co-align with, a path that we decided to take. At 2.5, 3 years old, his eyes rolled up in the back of his head and it was just like
lights out.
Over. It was just lights out.
Did that happen overnight?
That when we had that instance, that was like we had seen. Well, they kept just calling it sibling regression because we'd had Jesse. They're like 20 months apart, I guess is what it is, 19 months apart. And when we brought her home, there started to be like a little bit of just aggravation type thing. Like, it's sibling regression. Just keep going, keep doing everything you're doing. You guys are going to be right. And then there was a specific moment where we did what we were told, and within 2-3 days, he couldn't feed himself anymore. He couldn't sit still. He was like he started like doing weird shaking head. No eye contact was gone. I mean, he said dad at 6 months old. And he'll sign dad and he'll occasionally, like, we've got a lot of things back. But like, I've not heard him say dad in 6 years.
Wow.
And it's like, so when I get very passionate and frustrated that people just say that this is genetic, and there is some cases, but I think those are more cases like that what you and me would have seen 20, 30 years ago in school. Whereas now so many stories that I hear, so many people reach out to me. They're like, I have the exact same story. Our kid was on point, and then just one day gone, words gone, personality gone, eye contact gone. Genetics don't change like that overnight. So, and again, I don't want to upset anyone or like, it's just this my experience. Some
this
people
is your
literally,
story, yeah.
Right. And I think that there are so many though that it does seem like, there are children that are affected right from birth. Somebody that I think that you should check into is the Experience Miracles podcast by Dr. Tony. He's the chiropractor that led us to, and listen like the first 4 episodes. I don't know if you're into chiropractics or anything like that.
100%. I'm about to have a guest on chiropractor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Dr. Tony is like, I think that he's changing the world, and it's PX Docs, and that's actually what led us to our doctor. And man, when we started with Wyatt with them, to now, like he is starting to use the toilet on his own. He is starting to sleep at night. He's starting to play with toys like he's never played with. He's not running away. We can leave the back door open and he will just chill. Like he was a huge runner, like total flight risk at all times, would run out in front of farm equipment, playing with kids better. He learned to swim this year. We never thought that, because I kept trying to teach him to swim last year. He'd sink like a lead weight.
Wow.
And it was just like, and one day this year, I'm just like, all right, dude, we're going to do this. And we got in the pool, and he just was. And the cool thing, Zach, it was just like when he realized that he not only was given the opportunity and was doing it, he hugged and kissed me, went right to my wife, hugged, like he was
way.
Thank you. Thank you for freeing me. And it was one of the biggest moments of the summer, probably one of the biggest moments of my life, because it was like we gave him the opportunity to fail and he made it and then reacted in thanks.
Ah,
Dude, if you'd have saw him 2, 3 years ago with your background, you would have been like, there's not a lot of hope for this kid.
jeez.
Never has been aggressive per se. Like he gets mad when people push, like when he gets manhandled.
Yeah.
But well, so what kid's supposed to like to be
Yeah,
manhandled?
who
And that's
does
some
it?
of the other stuff that ticks me off is that, well, why it's not handling this very well. Well, I just saw how you had your hand. Now, I will say where Wyatt was at, like he had some really, really, really great people, but there was just moms and dads know how to handle their kids. So it's like, yeah, he doesn't want to be held that way. Like, okay, like he's gonna get ticked at you,
Yeah.
just like any kid would. And separating like a 10-year-old on the spectrum to just a 10-year-old that's not. There's so many things that we misconstrue for autism.
Yes.
It's like, no, he's just a stinking 10-year-old that doesn't want to listen to you right now.
Right. We should collab on a book. I got an idea to write a book called Not That Different, and to
Okay.
parallel how kids with autism, it's not that different from a typical kid.
I've pushed that so many times and talked to different, I've talked to people in my own, like my mom. I remember a couple of years ago, I was just like, is that autism or is that the 8-year-old? And it was like this moment where she was even like kind of coming through, figuring some stuff out. And like, there's so much for families to figure out in this. And we've
Yeah.
had to really learn how to give grace and like, and understand that sometimes we have been pretty sensitive and we probably have hurt feelings. And I've said it on my podcast and I've said it to people, like if I hurt feelings along the way, I'm not trying to. I mean, not with my I'm not trying to hurt feelings with my podcast or any social media. I'm just saying, like in general life happening moments where I'm just like, hey, we got to go. This isn't working, or we can't eat that, or fill in the blank, or me just advocating for my son. Like I might rub people wrong. At the end
Yeah.
of the day, I got to keep my family together, my family strong, and make sure that my son isn't forgot about. And if that, and it can, I'm sure, I know it has, but it's like I'm not sorry, but I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Like I
totally.
just have to, I have to have the target on my back. And one day it was just like, well, a friend of mine he was speaking at a conference down in Key Largo I was at, and he was just talking about creating content and doing something that was worth doing. And at that point, I was like, maybe I'll do some hunting stuff. But then it was like it hit me with like just a brick wall. It's like, dude, you got to start talking about autism. You got to start sharing, because
Yeah.
I've just a dad. I'm nothing special. I'm undereducated in so many different ways,
Me
but
too.
I I just know that parents need to, like, we felt so alone. And
Yeah.
from this community, I realized, like, dude, so many people, so many single parents don't have anyone to listen to them, anyone to comfort them. And you feel like to be in that type of seclusion.
Uh,
This is Suicide Awareness Month. It's like, and
yeah.
I do know a friend of mine in their group. I didn't know them, but a mom and daughter was double suicide because autism got too much. And
Oh
it's like, that's
man.
like, you want to talk about again about horror show.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, we're getting back to the sensitive stuff, but like I've seen at least 4 stories in the last 6 months of mom, child committing suicide because they can't handle it. One of it was like this 75, 80-year-old woman that got terminal illness. She got terminal diagnosis and she just didn't think anyone could take care of her. Like, I mean, he was in his 40s.
Jeez.
So again, when we talk about the horror side, it's not that we're embarrassed of our kids or that, like, I'm not looking for a gold star or a hug even. It is just, and I've learned, I've got a business that takes care of stuff. We are very financially blessed.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm pretty good. I could not say anything about this and like know that I'm going to be able to, well, I mean, as long as God continues to give me my health,
Right.
but it's like, as long as I have my health, like my family is pretty good. But that's not the case for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of other families. It's like the number in, like I cited Australia earlier, it was like 290 some thousand autistic children is that in that place right now. Well, we can double that obviously for parents. So we got another almost 500,000 people that are dealing with something extremely traumatic that is, again, 70 some percent profound.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't do 70% out of 290, but I mean, that's intense and that is horrifying. So I think I keep getting off on tangents. I apologize, Zach. Just reel me back in
No,
whenever.
no, this is funny. I'm not even. I put my notes away. We're just going for it.
Right. Right
These are
on.
the best conversations, anyways. Um, so how old is Wyatt now?
He's 10. He's
10.
10. He turned 10 in May. Yep, 10
And
in May.
so 2.5, 3. What was it like? I mean, and you alluded to it. I'll say it. I'm assuming there was a vaccine involved, and then a
There was.
couple days after.
There was. I mean, we followed, and again, guys, if you're listening to this and your skin's starting to crawl, just understand that everything that I'm trying to say, I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to tell you to not do anything. I'm trying to tell you to educate yourself as best that you can. Because if I would have had a little bit more education, a little bit more understanding, and if things were tested, like my son has the MTHFR gene mutation. So I have that mutation. I passed on to him. So again, when you talk about guilt, you think, well, shit, I passed this down, but when I was a kid, we got like 5 or 6 vaccines. My mom didn't do everything. She just did a few things. But, like my son, he had the Hep B shot day one, hours in. And
They
that's one of the reasons
they asked.
isn't that crazy?
Crazy on that is my fourth kid was 9 weeks early, and we
Okay.
found out my wife had cancer at 25 weeks pregnant with him. And so he came out at 29 weeks, stayed in the NICU for 9 weeks. He was probably at that time, it was like 4 days after he came out. He was maybe 3 pounds. And they came
Okay.
in and they asked me if they wanted, if it was time for him to get the Hep B shot. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
you guys can walk out of this room, please. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't,
Yeah.
and they're like, what do you, I will not even have a conversation about this right now. We just need him to stay alive. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Get out, please.
Yeah.
And, and that being your fourth kid, you had enough dad in you to sense a few things. And again, guys, like there's so many things that are safe. This is a first world country. I'm not trying to scare the heck out of anybody, but at the same point, there are things that don't always agree with us. And like a Hep B shot, like why are we getting something in our children like at that age that they're not even going to have the opportunity to contract something like that, probably at least into their teens, hope, right? But it's
Right.
just these things that, and again, why I cited Dr. Tony's podcast, I throw so much his way as much as possible. He's got one of the fastest growing podcasts out there, but he talks about the perfect storm. So I
Yeah.
used to stand on a hill of soul, like it was a vaccine. It was the MMR, is the one specific vaccine where we saw the most dramatic change in Wyatt. We had the MMR shot done, and within hours/days, he lost all of his words, his function. I mean, straight up reaction. We didn't know what was going on because they were already leading us down the road of sibling regression, and then it was regressive autism, and then it was, well, this is just how he's always been. No, it's not how he's always been. And then they kicked us out of the pediatric because I said we need to stop doing something, and we stopped the vaccine, and they immediately kicked us out.
No way.
And to
Wow.
Yes, and it's like if that doesn't raise some flags, because again, the whole theory behind the vaccines is like, you get vaccinated, you're protected. But they were saying that then, if your children are unvaccinated, you're endangering all the other kids. And it's just like, okay, again, some of this logic is not adding up. And again, I do think that there are some things that are good. I'm not telling you to, I am I hate to say that I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I am in just different ways. But it's like, even if you decide to do it, you don't have to accept the cluster shots. You can spread everyone's like, you have to follow the exact, doctor recommended time for everything. It's like, you can spread this stuff out. And even just doing that creates a safer environment for these kids.
Yeah.
You're dumping so much into these kids' little bodies that are developing so fast. So anyways, to get off that, I did stand on the hill that my son was 100% damaged from vaccines until Dr. Tony's podcast and Maximum Potential. We did work with Matt Hamilton here in Medina. And he has just, like I said, he's changing my son's life. He's working with me. He's changing my life. But the deal is the perfect storm is anything traumatic leading up to the birth and after the birth. So we're talking like stressful pregnancies, like say, you and your wife are trying to get pregnant. It's not happening. It's not happening. It's not happening. Finally, you get pregnant, or you have some miscarriages, and like the level is really really high or intense. Well, what's attached to the baby? The umbilical cord. So mom's cortisol levels are all screwed up. So now the baby's in stress mode while it's being made, and then you have the epidural, and then it slows the heart rate, and then all of a sudden we get kind of stuck in the canal and we have to use forceps. All of these things that then lead to, like, have you ever watched a stinking, I can't, gosh, my words today, How to Natural Birth, C-section.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever watched that? Like, well, it's
No.
it's a traumatic thing. I would say. So I was in a Perfect Storm conference, and they showed that, and it was really hard for me to handle, but they showed a C-section, and dude, they yanked that baby out like you wouldn't believe by the, just all like crazy, and it's like, they've saved hundreds of thousands of babies due to modern medicine and getting the baby out and all these different things, right? But that trauma, like on the neck, is what these chiropractics are saying. It's screwing up the vagus nerve. Well, without the vagus nerve, there is no development.
Wow.
So they're going focused on getting the vagus nerve back online. It's like all the stuff that I've learned. It's like I've got gallbladder pain all the time. When I get adjusted correctly, and it's like the point in my back that I struggle with, one of them. I mean, I've got compressed discs. It's like you get damaged, right? But like the one specific place, I can't tell you what it is right now, but when that gets adjusted, the gallbladder pain goes away, because that portion, all the nerves go to pancreas, gallbladder, stomach, liver.
Interesting.
And when I'm struggling with that, so because the reason I started going was because they do all these scans, they do all this energy reading, stuff that I'd never heard of. I've always gone to a chiropractor, right? But it was more just like the wham bam, all right, you're good, get out, come back in a couple weeks. Yeah. And they do that, right? But there's so much science. So, well, my son's readings like were from tail to top, inflammation. It's just like, how could a kid be that inflamed? So I went over and didn't tell them any of my issues, none of my pains, none of my nerve issues. And they did the scans, and dude, if every spot that I've ever struggled with didn't show up, and he explained to me what was wrong with me and what hurt, and did this hurt? Does your stomach? Do you have stomach problems?
It's all connected, dude, in the spine.
It was all connected, dude.
Wow.
Everything. And so it's like, it's hard for me. And so right now, some of my calling is definitely to try to get out, like I said, Dr. Tony's podcast, anything about chiropractics, the PX docs, is just like, I'm confident at this point, seeing what they've done with these kids. If I would have got Wyatt to them sooner, I think that we would be at a different point. And one of the things that keeps me going is 2 years ago, a 12-year-old non-speaking child started working with our doctor. Non-speaking, 12 years old. He's 14 years old now, and he's starting to talk.
No way.
Like talking. Wow. Not just like, he's starting to talk. And seeing the things that, like my son, like I said, just the down to earth, like you give the dude speech and he's a typical kid now. Now there's still some, like, when we go to family events, he gets pretty wound up. Like he gets like definitely stressed.
Yeah.
And so we still have to play the safety game. But if you gave him speech in our backyard where he's comfortable, he's the same as anybody else now. And like I said, 3 years ago.
Wow. What were some of the other stuff you did?
So when we first started, so we started with a biomedical doctor. That would have been right around when he was 3.5, 4. We were taking him over to a hospital for like OT and speech. And one of those ladies was like, hey, have you heard of this doctor? And her son was autistic, and, and she was like, I'm not supposed to talk to you about this. It's one of those things. But we went up there. It was this eccentric old dude, private office. It was like, boxes stacked up to the ceilings. And I'm just like, what are we doing here?
Best.
This is like, okay. But he, like, we're sitting in there, and we were in there for 2 hours, and he literally told us everything about our son that we like knew. And it was like, okay. So he was like, the folate, the magnesium, magnesium for sleep, magnesium for calling. He was the first one to ever talk to us about ivermectin and things like that, which is, again, really touchy subjects. So many supplements I couldn't even tell you at this point, but he was also the one that got us into the hyperbaric chamber. So I bought a hyperbaric chamber and spent a couple of years doing that with Wyatt. When we were doing that, he slept better than ever. He did have some jumps. The hyperbaric chamber, for those of you that don't know, it is a compressed machine, about 4 pounds. And the idea is to open up the blood vessels and to get blood flow going in portions of the brain that may be, or, maybe been dormant for a period of time. And it's something that I'd actually like to do again soon. But then we went to homeopathy for 2 years. They did like cleansing packets where we were the heavy metals. They were actually, quote unquote, removing vaccines, supposedly. I mean, homeopathy is still kind of a weirder thing to me, but we saw some of his best jumps actually in the homeopathy. Then there was essential oils. And where the heck, there was a couple other things that we were trying. Every supplement known to man, I think we've tried, right? And then about 20 months ago, we were at a point where we were both really struggling. Wyatt was at a dead point, just nothing was changing. School was a disaster. We pulled Wyatt out not long after this decision because there was just some things that we don't really need to get into, but he just wasn't getting what he needed to be politically correct and safe. Like I said, there was amazing people. If anyone listens to this that worked with him, you know who you are. You did good. Like there was a lot of great people,
yeah.
But there was just some that didn't jive, right? So at that point, then we were super low, and dude, I mean, I was just praying one day. I'm like, God, I need something. We need something. The lights are getting dark here. Like, I don't know what to do. He was at a 10 on the struggle bus, and my wife called me like the next day, and she's like, I just found this podcast. I've listened to the first 4 episodes. She's like, there's only 4 episodes, but I've listened to all 4 of them. I've already made an appointment. He gives a list on how to find doctors, and that was Dr. Tony's podcast. So he just started the podcast. And like the beginning, like his son was born early. They didn't expect him to live for but hours. And he started doing chiropractic stuff on his son immediately. And against all odds, they're like, he's not going to live. He's not going to make it.
Wow.
And against everything, his son is thriving, teenager, young kid. It's just like, so, and then that's when he dove into, he's like, there's something more to chiropractics than just adjustments. So all that in a nutshell, I guess, is why I'm so passionate about the chiropractics. But yeah, there's been other things that we've done, but that's kind of, I mean, that's the broad scope.
Well, that's interesting. I was just talking to my wife this morning because I got linked up with a chiropractor that's going to be on the show. That her big thing is addressing nervous system.
Yep.
And so I started talking to my wife about it, and she's like, yeah, we used to take the kids. That's what we were doing a couple of years ago. I had no idea. And she's like, I think we need to take them back because, this whole year has been pretty intense for them. And they've obviously lived through trauma for a year. So they're affected, and we're like, well, maybe it's time to get them back there. We can get their nervous system in line, and it'll help them because there's certain moments where they just can't regulate. And this wasn't the case a year ago. So it's, I think all these conversations and everything happen for a reason. So I think
100%.
I'm gonna go find that doctor. There's one close to us here that we used to go to. That it sounds like it's pretty spot on with what you're talking about. So that's cool.
And that is cool. And I do think that it's weird because it's like, who the heck? I saw somebody liked a post of mine, some lady here just a week or 2 ago. And so who is this? And then on her story was something, you were talking about very gently about the RFK stuff, and you were extremely sensible. And I was just like, holy cow. Like, I literally told my wife, I was like, I actually listened to a guy talk about, and he was so calm and collected. And I was like, this, and I liked it. I think I liked a couple of your things, and then you reached out, and it was just like, that's a God thing, right?
Totally.
Any type of like breadcrumb trail is, there's supposed to be a connection here. And if it helps one person, then we did the work that we needed to do.
Yeah. That's kind of that's where I'm at. It's like, if it's helping one, and maybe it's helping hundreds, but I hear from one.
Yeah.
Cool. Because it's kind of
Yes.
like, this is what I know I should be doing. I mean, this has been on my heart for like 7 years, and I started it in the hospital while my wife was,
Okay.
you know, she was,
Yeah.
it wasn't looking pretty good for a handful of days.
Man, I'm so glad she's doing
Well,
better.
and it's funny because, yeah, so we went through all the Western medicine and everything, and it ran its course, and the only option they proposed was surgery. And we are like, it was pretty invasive. Like it was, she was going to be in bed for 6 months. And we
Mm.
were like, no, no, we don't accept this. Like there's other stuff that can be done. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's when we went to Mexico.
Okay. I saw
And a
that.
lot of the therapies in Mexico are the same therapies for autism: hyperbaric chamber, glutathione, IV
Yep.
drips, B17, vitamin C, red light, sauna, electromagnetic
Mm-hmm.
pulses. Like it's all very similar, which is,
Yes.
it's interesting to bring it full circle. The nervous system.
Yes. It's just like getting the body, the potential of getting the body back online and letting it do
Yeah,
its
you
thing.
mentioned that earlier. And that is the vast difference between Western medicine and reminding your body to do its job.
Yes. Well, and Dr. Matt, he reminded me the other day about this. He's just like, and we did a couple, I think we just did one episode. We're getting ready to do another episode, and I'm going to have him do it on the perfect storm. So like my breakdown of it, he's going to dive super nitty gritty into it. But he's like, we need the medical system. And it's like, yeah, we need the medical system. We need that fast trauma care. And I'm not saying that there's not amazing doctors, amazing nurses, amazing pharmacists that are doing their job, that heart is in it. It's not them. There's the system, there's this money machine, and that is what I grow so skeptical of. It's not that I hate the medical system, and it's like he compares, and he's like, I could get yelled at, different ways for this, but it's just like, it's like the medical system is like firemen, like they go in with their axes and their hoses and they just pour all this stuff on there, and but then what? And it's like you're on this medication or you're on this, and it's like it's not solving an issue, it's masking something that may or may not be treatable if you get the nervous system back online. And we put our faith in some of the craziest things in this day and age. Could we not just open up our mind enough to think that maybe we could be onto something here?
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, it has its place. I think it all has its place,
Yes.
but it's one side, like we were talking about with autism, like you just can't get along on both sides.
We can't. And, it's like, and I'm so, because like Wyatt, he had inhaled a rock. It's been 2, 3, gosh, it's probably been 2.5, 3 years ago now.
Oh
And,
gosh.
and we didn't know, dude. We didn't know. Like, there was no choking event. There was nothing. She was finally, because what we finally started he doesn't talk. So there was no, like, man, something feels weird. There was no choking. There was nothing. But he was a big mouther. He put everything in his mouth all the time. And it was around springtime. Well, we noticed a slight wheeze, and we're like, okay, he's got allergies, right? Well, it just kept persisting and persisting, and like, cold medicine wasn't doing anything. Allergy medicine wasn't doing anything. And one night we were laying him down in bed, and I was like, I just held his nose, and you just heard it so clearly, and I'm like,
Oh gosh.
dude, there's something in there.
Oh,
And so next day we got up, we went to Akron Children's, and well, she took him to the neighboring doctor. He did an X-ray. He's like, "There's something in there. We can't tell what it is, but you got it." So we went to Akron Children's, and that was so hard. I mean, at that point, super high vibrating kid, waiting, not knowing, the all the scans, um, and ended up there was a rock. They told us every possible scenario from splitting his chest, his lung. I mean, like, this was like life or death situation at that point, apparently. And they got it out. They got it out without crazy surgery. They got it out, but they're like, another day or so, he's like, it was eroding through the lining. He would have eroded through. He would have bled out in minutes. It would have been it. And it was like, again, this God
oh
thing
my
of, and again,
gosh.
the medical system is needed. So I
Yes.
never want to come across as someone that I don't hate the medical system. I don't like the money side of it. The people like that at Akron Children's, they were, there's one nurse in particular. She was like an angel, right? She did everything she could to make our life better. So again, the medical system is needed. There's doctors, nurses, everybody out there, amazing people. It's just there are other things that I want people to at least be aware of, and then do what you want with it.
Yeah, 100%. That, I mean, it saved my wife's life, it saved my kid's life. It's
Amazing.
just,
Hallelujah.
you know, and yeah, and some of those NICU nurses, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
they, I don't know how they do that. They literally sit there and watch them all day long, like, you know. And then, but I do think at some point you do need to remind your body to do what God intended it to do. And there's a lot of modalities and ways to do that that aren't accepted. Why? Because there's no money in it. I don't know.
No, I mean, and that is one of those touchy subjects. And
Right?
it's just like people are like, oh, you're just conspiracy. And it's
Not.
like,
We've lived it. We've seen it.
we've lived it.
So that,
I am seeing,
yeah,
yeah, I'm seeing my son's life change. And because like the other thing is like, we told Dr. Matt, like, these are all the things that we've done. And he's like, yeah, I figured. And he's like, probably didn't do a lot, did it? And I was like, my wife. I have to give all the credit to my wife. My wife is the absolute. She's the warrior. She's the 3 times. I mean, we take him to chiropractic 3 times a week. It's an hour plus away, and that's
yeah.
just what she's done for
Wow.
20 months.
Wow.
And she was the one that found this. She's the one that dug into it. So I have to give when it comes to Wyatt's health, she's primary. She's everything. I work. I'm home as much as possible, but I have to give everything to her.
Yeah.
And she was telling this to the doctor, like, this is all we've done. He's like, yeah, I figured, and it probably did some. And she's like, yeah, it did some. And he's like, until the nervous system is online, Wyatt basically just has the most expensive pee in the world because he can't absorb. He can't, and we know that with the MTHFR, it's an absorption issue, it's a detox issue, all of these different things that the gut's not working, so it's not right. So then there's no nutrients, nothing going to the brain, and that is because the nervous system isn't online. So, to think that, we could get kids to a chiropractor at, when they first get diagnosed at 2, 3, 4 years old, instead of going, right down the whole, and ABA therapy, there's a lot of different therapies. There's a lot of good stuff out there. I'm not knocking it. I don't agree with all of it, but at the same point, I've seen kids benefit from it. But if it's actually a nervous system issue, they're not probably going to need that. They just need some healing. They need some time. They need to get the toxins out of them. They need to not eat Hot Pockets every day and get off gluten for a little while. And all of those are really hard decisions. And all of those are really hard to stay consistent at. And I understand if it's a single mom out there and she's got 3 kids and one of them's, super high support needs and all they'll eat is chicken nuggets. Well, that feels dark and ominous because it's like the kids got to eat. Well, the gluten's just destroying their guts. Well, them hearing that right now, if they're listening to it, they're probably like, well, what am I supposed to do? That's tough. But we just got to start somewhere. And I don't know how that is for everybody. I mean, we've been in this for so long now. Some of the pain and suffering and struggle is just like, we'll make a shift. Wyatt will get through it. We'll get through it. There's going to be tears. There's going to be tantrums. There's going to be dad losing his temper from time to time. It's just, it's life. And but for these single parents, especially because divorce rate's like 87% with autism.
Yep.
It's unreal. And so they're unsupported. They don't have both, families sometimes. And it's just like, and I, it's just, it's a super, so go ahead.
No, yeah. Bring up an interesting point. Well, 2 things. Encouragement on that side of things. Just keep trying just keep trying. And like you've been in this world for 10 years now, and you have past experiences to stack those wins. So just some hope for any of the listeners that, like, you seem like you're in the deep end right now. You will get through it, and you will look back. And you'll be able to use that experience to get you through what you're going to go through next, because you will go through something next.
And that's what I say on the podcast all the time is like, as long as I'm doing this, it's going to grow with my son, because with different times is going to come different struggles, different wins though. Like we get so focused on the struggles because they are intense, but like, gosh dang it. It's like the I can't think of her name, but was it Wild and Free? Is that her handle?
Yeah.
With that,
Erica. Yeah.
yeah, she was talking about celebrating the wins,
Yeah.
and it's like, and it sounds like she was right on top of that. And it's like we do need, as a community, to not only celebrate our kids and our family wins, but everybody else's wins. And again, if you just don't agree with me 100% of the time, it doesn't mean that I'm out to, like, steal your kids. Like, I'm not trying to create bad waves out here. I'm just
Right.
trying to deliver our own experience, and we have stacked up wins. Our
Yeah.
son is living better because of things that we've tried. And yes, we could have very easily medicated him and gone to the zoo or gone to Cedar Point or done these things because we were able to level him out so he would stay with us. But I just have felt this overwhelming need to give him as long of a time as possible with as little garbage in him that his body might do something naturally. And then when we get to that point and we have to medicate because we don't get where we hope, then that we'll cross that bridge when we get there. There has been a lot of sacrifice, and like the chicken nugget thing, it's like, I will say, is like, if you sacrifice a week of trying, or make a week sacrifice to try, like, there's a lot of good gluten-free chicken nuggets with good, clean ingredients that isn't just straight up chemicals. And I'm not like this most crispy dad you'll ever meet by any means, but it's like,
Right.
I'm a whole food, single, like, well, the other dude you're talking about, the single ingredient foods, steak, potatoes, like
Seth,
that.
yeah.
That's a lot of our household. But picky eating is a massive struggle for autistic families. So
Mm.
I get it, and we've been there. But at the same point, consistency and time has prevailed for us.
Yeah.
Because Wyatt will eat pretty much anything we put in front of him. He will not eat broccoli. That ain't happening. It's pretty much it,
I
though.
don't blame him half the time.
Yeah. No.
Broccoli's good in the oven, but in the boiled, I don't know. Not a fan.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
On the marriage front and divorce rate, 87%. What is it that have you seen, like, in the autism community specifically, and how, like, what has kept you going strong with your wife? Because I know in society, right,
Right.
men typically aren't leading their families, from my observation.
Yes.
And so then it forces the wife to lead the family because the man pieces out. So then the roles are switched, and then feminism isn't a thing. The man isn't leading, and you
Yep.
throw in hardship, such as an
Yep.
autism journey. And it seems like for
Yep.
males, I mean, I felt it even in a cancer journey. Like, it's very easy for us to just check out.
Yes. And I think that's probably been thousands of years in the making. Men are hunters.
Yeah.
They are the ones that have always left the situation. Now, in when I say that, it's like, obviously the men checking out today are not hunting. They're like, they're letting their families down. But there's I would say, a psychological inadequacy in men's brains, that, like, maternal instinct and paternal instinct are two different things. Men have always been levers, where women have always for thousands of years been the ones to stay in the nest. So I
Yeah.
do think that it is easier for men to check out and just say, I can't do this, you're better on your own, type thing, and, like, almost make it about, like, making it better for them, because I just can't handle it, I'm not good, and they start beating themselves up and they run away. Now, it's interesting, again, on the autism, like, I'm more on TikTok. I'm starting to do more on Instagram, but, like, TikTok's been where I've only been doing social media for, like, since last December.
Okay.
My
Yeah.
last social media account before that was MySpace. So it was like,
Nice.
I never even had a Facebook.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I had a Facebook, but I didn't start Instagram, I think, probably till last November.
If you've not done TikTok, I would recommend. There is a huge community, autism
really?
community on TikTok.
I've never been on TikTok.
It's so funny. It was the one that I always bashed the most. But then when I first was like, you know what, I'm going to try to create some stuff, I'm going to go to TikTok because maybe no one will know me there. It's like,
Yeah.
Facebook or, like, people find you so fast. So I was able to go on TikTok and just, like, basically, for lack of terms, fail and just not feel judgment.
Yeah.
But through that have found a quick community of, autistic
Nice.
families that are just trying to do. But anyway, it is predominantly women driven. There are a few men, but it is predominantly women driven. And that's where I do try to walk cautiously, because like I am, again, still secondary. My wife's primary in this. Like, she's still the one that is got the battle axe in hand, and she's the warrior.
Yeah.
I'm more the supporter in this, but it's like, but she needs that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't want to say that I know anything better than any mom out there. I'm just trying to deliver a dad aspect and try to get to more dads that if our mental health is in check, we can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I do talk a lot of mental health. I've had a lot of mental health struggles, been through a lot of different traumatic experiences that definitely screwed with me in different ways. But if your mental's good, your parenting is good, your relationship is going to happen. So that's what I am trying to get out. So for me and my wife, I mean, it's God. If we didn't have God in our life, if we didn't have Jesus Christ in our life, I don't think that we would have made it. So I do think
Yeah,
that there is
right.
a component.
I don't
And
know how
it's like,
anybody makes it.
I don't either. And it's like, I'm not trying to say that it's an obligation, but it is just like, it is that extra thing that's just like, no, this was what I signed up for. I am here for my wife through thick and thin. And you don't have to love it all the time. You don't have to like it all the time, but you love them through it. And it is just like, my wife has gone through different things, but she stood by my side through probably way more. And so it is just this, but the thing with autism is it's so controversial. You got this whole community fighting amongst itself on whether it's fixable, not fixable, genetic damage, all of these different things, that you have a community that's already fighting. So then you got the wife watching this Instagram, and this dad's still in just denial and just thinks that he's still going to have a football star. And it's like he's going to grow out of it, which was, I was very resistant. I was like, this isn't autism. He's going to grow out of it.
Yeah.
And like, there was a dark time. So it's just like, and then one day the dad wakes up and it's like, dude, Johnny still isn't talking. We got an IEP meeting. There's a doctor that's going to be there. And they get the shit scared out of them. And it's just like, well, then like the wife wants to do medication, or she wants to do herbal. And the dad's just like, we just need to get him to come down so he can sleep.
Yeah.
So it just so in a community that's already fighting amongst itself, and it's leading couples. And this is just my assumption, but it's like, then couples are seeing it on different platforms. They can't come to grips with it. They can't agree. And then they're just fighting about it because little Johnny he won't sleep. He won't eat. Well, are you going to make him eat? He won't eat. And so it's just like this added element of disagreement that how could it not drive a wedge? How could it not separate somebody when there's no sleep, no nourishment, and no agreeing on a child's health, which just anybody, good person, well, good or bad, everyone can pretty much agree.
That's
we
hard.
want our kids healthy.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just on top of marriage being difficult as it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then you throw that into it, and it's like, geez, man.
Well, and that's just like for anything, like whether it's an illness, an accident. It's not just special needs, obviously, but anything that you put. I mean, your wife going through this. I mean, I guarantee you that's been beyond words difficult for you and your family. It's just like something that's already hard. And now we're putting something in that you guys have to make crazy decisions to. Are we going to go to Tijuana? Are we going to just, like, wow. And until you're there, you don't know. So unless you have an autistic child that is, affected in a point that is like, okay, again, I would just, is affected in a way that they won't be able to live on their own. And it's very clearly seen. If you've not been a part of that, or they can't speak, they can't tell you if they're hurt, sad, mad, excited, unless you've been through that. It's hard to understand why these parents stop showing up at events, why they can't, both go to a family event, why they look disheveled, why, they're not, calling anybody. It's like, there's a period of time where you just go so dormant, so reclusive, because you're just trying to not go crazy.
Yeah.
And that again was our experience anyways.
Well, yeah. And all the voices and all the noise, it's just so overwhelming. You're just like, can everyone just leave me alone?
Yeah. And I guarantee you know all about that at this point with the last year of your guys' journey. It's just like, you just want to find some sense of peace.
Right.
And that's and why people can't understand that is crazy to me.
Yeah. Or it's like, how, it's phone calls, why haven't you called me back? I'm like, dude, just don't take it personal, man. I don't even want to sit down for 20 minutes and talk. It's just, yeah.
There's just no bandwidth left, and that's
Right.
I've said that for so long now. It's just like you have a certain amount of bandwidth that you wake up with, and when you either have an illness in the home or special needs or again accidents, whatever, and you wake up with the fact that the child's been awake since 3, or your wife wasn't able to sleep, all of these different things that just like by 7 o'clock your bandwidth is spent, and then you got to go solve the problems of the day and hope that everything is okay at home. And then you come home and they're not okay, and you had the worst day of life at work because you lost this account or this broke or this guy quit, and then you just got to dive right back into it, and that is just an absolute groundhog day, hamster wheel. It wears people out. So kind of getting just a quick recap back to where we all started with the RFK and Trump and the horror show. They're not making shit up. Pardon my French. It's just like they're not making this up. They're actually so in touch with a huge community, and some that are not that affected, but please hear the ones that are.
Yeah.
And I guess don't attack people that are brave enough to say something that is extremely controversial, because again, it sounds like they're calling people's kids ugly or unneeded or worthless. And it's like, no, we're trying to get to the bottom of, could we stop this?
Yeah.
And or is there any way that we could provide? I mean, gosh, if they did come out and find a reason. I mean, you've seen ads on every news or TV channel for years. If you have mesothelioma and work in the trades or whatever, call this number for support. It's like maybe that'll happen for people that have profound autism. I don't know. I'm not looking for money. I'm just looking for, okay, that's what did it. This is what it is. Don't do this. Let's move on.
Yeah.
I'm not even looking for anybody's head anymore. There'd be too many heads probably. It's like, it's not worth the fight.
Right. What you mentioned why it saved your life. What was that?
So, in a nutshell, it's be 12 years ago. I don't know if you can see this truck picture up here on the wall.
Yeah.
That was my dearest friend, and I had the opportunity to get him home one night, and he was about to be arrested. He'd been drinking too much. He was at a local gathering deal, and I was often the one that would get called to cool down the situation, talk down the cops. It's like, he's going to go home, everything's cool. And I was like, dude, go home. You need to go home. He's a mile and a half away from home. We've walked home a million times. I had the opportunity. I'd had a couple beers, nothing crazy, but I had to get some other people home. We were just done. I was tired. Everything was good. He walked home the same way that we normally did, but instead he walked down the tracks. He got hit by a train, and just it was over. And it was one of those things that until a few years ago, even I just could never forgive myself for that instance. It's like you would never know. But again, just this, God thing. Like, I remember like him looking at me so deeply that night, giving me a hug and telling me I love you, like he knew it was going to happen. And there was no suicide. There was no nothing. Dude had too many beers and probably just, who knows. But through that was some of the darkest times of my life, because now I built a business out of it because I had to stay so busy. We went from a couple $100,000 company to a multi-million-dollar service company because I was so broken that I had to get busy.
Yeah.
But through that, I lost entirely touch with reality. And then found out that I had Lyme disease. They were trying to diagnose me with MS, and that I was losing my words, my dexterity. I have a little palsy in my face still. But through that, I've never said this on a show, but I was suicidal. I called my dad. I had an event where it was like, this is just about it.
Yeah.
And through all of this, though, all of these things stayed in my head. And there was a hunting trip that co-aligned with this. And it was when I was starting to get better. And my wife's like, you need to get out here and go try to get yourself back. Like, everything's going to be okay here.
Yeah.
And because she knew I was just like I wasn't who I was. There was a shell of a man. I was successful in some instances, but I was a shell of a man. And what ended up happening on that trip was there was a specific day where I said, "Don't try to contact me. I'm going to be." It was out in Arizona, and I was like, "There's no way that I'm going to have service where I'm going. We've been around this, and it's like, don't try to call me. Like, don't." Just be because I'd had like 55 panic attacks. Like I was having panic attacks. Like you would like the mind warping, room closing down panic attacks is what I was struggling with at the time. And dang it, if I didn't get out there and she tried to contact me and got a few broken messages that something's wrong with Wyatt, possible seizures, and it's just like broken text.
Wow.
I turned around and there was like, I climbed 1,000 feet to get on top of this mountain to get just a drop of service. And through that, my wife, she's a mess. I'm 29 hours from home. She's thinking Wyatt had a seizure. They're thinking he had a seizure. What do we do? This was when autism was really happening in like the early stages, and we were understanding something was wrong. And I remember like, like we're like, she's just irate. I'm getting mad. There's no communication. It's broken. We get off the phone and I have this like, and I talk about it in one of the episodes, like talking to God on the mountain is like, I just stood up on this mountain we just fought. Like, I just remember like, God, what is going on? Why am I here? How could this be happening? I can't get home. I can't talk to my wife. How is this? And it was like, there was finally, and like the time periods here, the dark suicidal thoughts that actually did come after this. And I'll get to that here in a second, but it was the first moment in my life where I realized that I had to live forever and I needed to find a way to help my family succeed because I knew something was very wrong. Through that, then the diagnosis with Lyme and long journeys, because I did do some medical stuff because like I said, I would have been in a wheelchair not long after they finally got, because I went in for a stroke. And they're like, this isn't a stroke, like what's going on? And I finally got with the right doctor, and I had Lyme, I had a yellow fever and a Q fever. They were all three tick driven diseases, and my nervous system was just absolutely shot. So I was on 2 different antibiotics with a bunch of other stuff for like a year to try to strip my body of it. Well, through that came I was so chemically imbalanced that by the time I finally realized what was happening, it was almost too late. But through that, there was just still this like, no, I have to. Mm-hmm. So when I say my son saved my life, I'm very confident had I not just had, and my daughter, I don't ever want to sell her short. She is the love of my life. She's the sweetest thing. She is my light. But knowing that my son had something that I had to be here for, there was just that little bit that was like, you're just not there right now. You can get through this. God wanted me to see the underbelly, I guess. I mean, when people say that suicide isn't real or thoughts aren't real, or like, I mean, I was so chemically out of whack, which again is another thing, like the medical stuff is just like, I was so chemically out of whack that I was a different person. And if anyone listens to this, that finds this, that knows me, it's like, yes, people that look like they have it together don't a lot of the times. People that look like they have stuff figured it out don't half the time. So don't ever take anyone for granted. Don't ever think that this, crazy things couldn't happen like that. Because if I didn't have a strong support system, if I didn't have a mission that was my son, I don't know if I would have made the call. But I'm confident because of having more than I could handle in my life has given me reason enough to live.
Yeah.
I guess if that makes sense.
Yeah, no. That's powerful, man. Yeah.
I've not shared that even on my podcast, so I don't know. I guess it was just one of those. I've never got that far into the weeds.
No, that's good. I mean, yeah, it's kind of, when you get to that low point, it's kind of like God meets you there. I had the opportunity to speak at church a few months ago. I think we're actually made it into a podcast. We're going to drop it next, or what's the date? The 8th, next 15th.
Okay.
And it was I kind of had a, not like that, but I had a situation where it was just, I was up late one night sitting in the NICU for the second round to the NICU after baby came home, and then we thought we lost him 3 different times.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
remember sitting in that NICU at like 4 a.m, staring at the ceiling, like, why? Like, why is this happening? Like, why, God, why? And then I had this thought, like, what if I shifted the why to what? Like, what is God doing, or what has He done? And then I started looking back on the last, whatever, 6 months at that time, on where He showed up. And it really just like brought some light to the situation. And then you're like, what, how many years removed now? And you look back and you're like, man, he's always up to
Dude,
something.
that's just it. Is just like realizing that like everyone's like, oh, God will never give you more than you can handle. It's like, that's not true. He's going to give you so much more than you can handle, because why else would you need to lean on him?
Exactly.
Like if comfort was available at all times, like again, when I say He saved my life, it's not just even in that broken moment, because like I said, I've never even really outed that. It's just I would have been, I mean, again, success makes you a different person. It makes you rely on money. It makes you enjoy things through experiences. Like, I'm not trying to sound arrogant in anything. It's just like I found that early success, and had this not grounded me, there's no way I'd be advocating. Obviously, there's no way that I'd be trying to share my mental health with anyone in hopes that it might save one person from making the wrong decision. There's no way that I'd be reading my Bible every day. Now, I obviously fall short on that, but it's like there's no way that I'd be seeking out a relationship if there was no need. If comfort and every worldly thing was provided, which it's been, I would not be anywhere near what I am now. So when I say save my life, I'm also speaking spiritually, as I would not be looking for a relationship with Christ, understanding how broken I have been and how many things that I have done wrong, and how many, you know, how many ways that I fall short.
Yeah.
And, and to not feel like, it's been, there was times where it's like I felt judged, like, why, how could this happen to my son? But it's like we live in a fallen world, but at the same point, it's like God has power over everything. And if my son is what He used to save my life, then,
Yeah.
dang, I
Right.
guess thank you. I thank you. I thank you. Like my dad reminded me recently, because we were going through some really like intense stuff here with some other things. And it's like, I think it was in James where he read me the passage where it's like, be thankful in all things, in the trials that He's putting in front of you, because He is working on you, essentially, in so many words, to make you who He wants you to be. And that's not going to come in rainbows and unicorns. Like it's going to come through pain, struggle, try. And it's like everyone thinks that you wake up and like you commit your life to Christ and like everything's going to be happy and hunky dory. It's like
Not at all.
the deeper I've got into it, it's like the more I'm like, man, I'm actually like, I don't feel as happy as what I did when my eyes were closed, because like I wasn't affected. I didn't think things through the same way. It's like there's so much more conviction, there's so much more question, and I have joy and I have peace, but at the same point, like that blissful way of just drifting through life, like, I'm gonna have some drinks tonight, or I'm just gonna go out and do this. Like there was no conviction. There was a freer way of life. Um, and it's not that conviction is what has got me here, I guess, obviously, but it's just like, it's not this like, come to Jesus moment where you're healed and all your pain's gone and all your fears are gone. It's like some fears are actually awakened.
Right. Right.
And then squaring with that and giving up to like, to just faith. I guess I didn't mean to take a turn here and get into that, but it's like, that's what's got me here, is just
Oh,
God has
100%.
led me through and led our family through. And again, given me a wife that could handle mountains being dropped on her, as a mom,
Yeah.
to see your baby,
Oof.
go down this rabbit hole. And it's like that maternal / paternal. It's like a man hardens most times. A man is going to say, this isn't right. I can't do this. And if a man listens to this, that this happened to, I'm not calling you out. I'm actually sympathizing. You weren't created to have the same type of instincts that a mother does.
Right.
Mom's like instincts and love is like endless, whereas men can get lost in their feelings and egos and fears. And I've been there, and I'm just now trying to share everything and anything about me,
Yeah.
because I guess that's why I've gone through some trials that I I was supposed to, right? Like this is what I'm supposed to do, is now share that you can get through stuff.
Right. Well, and it's like that's where God is using it too. And it seems like too, I don't know, for me, uh the the more pain you go through, the more discomfort, the more hardship, you less and less of you cares so much on what people say. Because
Yes,
then you're like, oh, say whatever you want. Because like, I mean, it makes you tougher, obviously,
it does.
and mentally, and your mindset becomes sharpened. Because now you start
Yes.
to see things in a different light, like we're mentioning, and you're able to take all those painful moments and turn them into opportunity and go about life as it happens for you, not to you. And so
Hmm.
it's like,
And
yeah, if people say stuff, now I'm kind of leaning into, because my whole life I was kind of like a people pleaser. And
yes.
so nowadays I'm kind of like, you have no idea. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm here for a mission, and I know what that is. It's become very
Yep.
clear through this
That's awesome.
last year, and that's where it's at. And it seems like you're on the same path.
And I'm so proud of you, man. I mean, because to see a dad that doesn't have a child with special needs doing this is like you are doing God's work. Like you are choosing to do something. And it's like I've talked about teachers and caretakers and aides. It's like, it is biblical that like a servant's heart is a gift. And so for you to be doing this is like, you're taking a gift that is often ignored, and just be like that, it's not flashy, it's not this, it's not that. And you worked in the industry, in the field, but you're doing it because you're moved. You're doing it because you like, so that is extremely awesome to see. Cause I thought you'd said that you had a son with autism. I didn't realize that you didn't have anything until earlier in the show. And it's just like, that's amazing that you're taking this time to do this. Like, holy cow, dude.
I mean, I don't know. It's the only thing I've done in life where I didn't have to try, especially
That's
when I was
awesome.
teaching. It was just like 100% I know God gave me the gifts, and
Yep.
I don't have to try. And it's fulfilling. Like, I love hanging out with special needs kids. I think they're hilarious.
Yeah.
I, I
Yeah.
I'm coaching my son's baseball team. First practice, I'm just like looking around at the players, and like we were saying, like, who has autism? Two of them right away.
Yeah.
The dad comes
Yeah.
up to me and he's like, "Hey, there's my son," and he's like trying to like dance to the topic to tell me he has
Yes.
autism,
Uh,
and I just stopped him. I'm like, "Hey, man, I am so glad he's here. I know he has autism, and we're gonna have a great year together." And the dad was just like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much." But I don't
yeah.
know. That's just where it's at. But tell me about your podcast. I came across it probably. How long have you had it?
The podcast just hit a year here a couple weeks ago. So I've got like 54 episodes out.
Okay, yeah, I think I came across it probably like February of this year, and
Really?
I was still pretty new to the game. So in my I, I remember thinking like, oh, when I get some more episodes going, I'm gonna hit this guy up because it would be fun. Because I listened to one of them, and I was like, oh, there's dads out there doing this. This is great.
Yeah. That's so funny.
Yeah,
It's so weird and humbling to like people like that are finding it or seeing it. It's like one of the guys that just came to work here he went home and was talking to somebody and they're like, "Oh yeah, the dude Jim True, like he's got the spectrum and camouflage." It's like, it's just funny that people are finding it.
yeah,
Because you just think you're just going to speak into a mic and a couple people will find it here or there, and it's like I've said to people that have like, well, like, what are you doing? You're 37, you own a company. Like, what are you doing with social media? Like, why are you I work with First Form now, trying to do some stuff. I want to do some business
nice.
coaching. Like, there's a lot of different stuff that I want to do. And they're like, what are you doing? And it's like, I don't know, but
Yeah,
I'm going for it.
right.
It's like it's what I'm supposed to do right now. It's just what I'm supposed to do right now.
Yeah,
So like the podcast, like I said, again, a God thing. One of the coaches that he's been a mentor my whole life. He's just another business owner down in Cincinnati, and he was just like, I got some people you want to meet, and he's like, I know you want to do some stuff for autism, and so I got to give a shout out to Joe, my producer, because he introduced me to Joe, and Joe's got a podcast called Dudes in Progress.
okay.
It's a really cool show, but he introduced me, and he's like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I'd love to have a show. I just don't know if I could keep it going. I literally, he literally had to give me a computer test or computer class for like 6 months. It seemed like, just on like, this is how you put a file in. It's like, cause I hired office people to do office stuff. Like, it's
Right.
just like, I've always been a who, not how guy.
Yeah.
I would rather, have someone do it than me figure it out. So anyways, it turned into like a computer class. And then he's like, I think that we actually have, you got something here that I think needs to be shared. And I was like, well, let's try to get to, he's like, I tell you what, come up with 10 episode ideas if you are really serious. And I did that night and sent them to him. He's like, holy cow, okay, let's go. The podcast, I talk about everything from our experiences to ideas, like with hyperbaric chambers, everything that we've tried, our wins, our losses, things to celebrate. I've got some episodes in there on how to ask an autistic parent if they need help, like how to, have these questions, how to bring it up. Like a lot of times it's like, again, this thing in the room that nobody wants to ask, nobody wants to talk about. They're afraid feelings are going to get hurt. And sometimes they do. And sometimes it's like, you just have to accept that they're going to get hurt. And, I talk, a lot of mental health, mental stuff, mental mind stuff, try to get some motivation out there. I mean, I could see it going a lot of different ways, but it's always going to focus around the autism and mental health side of things. Cause it's like, I came out with some stuff not long ago on the social media where it was a specific event that I don't need to get into right now, but it's like, I realized that I don't have the fix for autism. I don't have I have a good direction right now, but to what end, I don't know. So for me, I feel like the movement needs to be almost more for the parents and the caregivers, because if we're not healthy, how can we be good for our kids?
Yeah.
Which, then again, the God thing popped up where I saw an advertisement for, First Form Legionnaires or, affiliate program. And I was like, I'm going to do that because I've used your products for years and maybe I can help people with that. And it's like, so I'm adding that, just the element into like, if you need more health, you need more energy, blah, 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 any way that I can help the family by someone who is, I'm not an expert. I'm just a dad that's trying to do his best. That's the podcast in a nutshell. It's like, I say it a million times. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert. I'm just a dad that got mad enough that felt like stuff wasn't being talked about, and I'm just going to go full send. Yeah, it's just time.
First Form, I take their creatine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. I actually just started using the creatine. I've always been like, no, I'm just protein, and I use like collagen and the glutamate and the full mega, a couple of those things. But I've always just been like, I don't want to do the creatine. But like
it's really
working with a new.
I think it's
good.
I think it's got some misconceptions. I mean, all the Hope for Cancer, the nutritionist there has all the patients on creatine.
No way. Yeah. I did not know that.
Yeah. He said you can go up to 20 milligrams a day.
Well, so that's really interesting because I'm working with a new coach, and he was the one that's just like, dude, get over yourself, get on creatine. So all these different things, but he was just talking about, there's a new study that came out that if you're jet lagged, like you're totally behind, everything's kaput. He said a dose of 25 milligrams of creatine will totally bring you back, totally neutralize everything, totally take away all the bad. Yeah. And I was like, that sounds crazy. I mean, I've not taken creatine since I was like, high school.
Right. Well, you're like, I need more bigger muscles, but I think it's more. It's more than just for muscles.
It is. It's mind. It's mind health. It's, there is more that and it's like, I've gone through the First Form training even on it. And I'm just like, but no, I was wrong. I was so jaded on it that I just wasn't looking at it. And then after he talked to me and I read some more stuff and different things, it's like, it's the most investigated supplement on the market. Like it's been looked at and studied. It's like, it's proven, it's in what we eat anyways. Like we're ingesting it. It's just like, I just did a peptide therapy for my knee. Again, it's stuff that's in your body.
Just
and it's just adding a little bit of life. And it's like, my knee is like almost totally, after a surgery that didn't seem to really go very well, after a year and a half of swelling. and 16 days into a 20-day peptide therapy, it's like gone. It's like my knee's like back to
That's
normal.
wild.
It's like,
That
what?
is wild. I love it. Yeah, it's all out there. I feel like we can talk forever. Oh, you mentioned ABA. Yeah, I think we're on the same page with ABA. We won't get into it. ABA done
Yeah.
right, great. Done wrong, horrible.
Yeah. And yes, and that's we know we did it. We tried it very early on, and we were both kind of like,
It's weird.
And
It
now,
feels weird.
yeah, it does. And now, so one of my closest friends, they did a lot of that early on. Now his son's 20 some years old and never even knew that he had a diagnosis, and that was one of their big, like he'll die on that hill. And I mean, he has the success, like. So it's there, and I do think that it works for certain people, but again, we're talking on a spectrum that like that some kids' bodies over here doesn't work in the brain. This like it's just so we can't cookie cutter. And it's like even like, well, cancer's not cookie cutter either. It's like, so again, like why do we say that everything has to be done in autism? We just need more research and more doctors with an open mind
Yeah.
that are willing to try a few other things or some recommendations. That's all I guess I'm trying to get to.
Yeah. All right, so Spectrum and Camouflage is the name of your podcast too, correct?
Yep. And same on TikTok. If you like spectrumandcamouflage.com, you can go catch all the episodes. You can find me on whatever social media you're looking for. I'm on Pandora, Apple, really Spotify, anywhere you
Spotify,
can listen. Yeah. Anywhere you can listen to podcasts, I'm there. Like I said, there is some controversial stuff here or there, but it's delivered from experience, and I try to stay away from political stuff as much as possible.
yeah.
But at the same point, right now it is politicized, and it's not due to the fact that like no one's trying to make money right now. And that's what, me and the one guy kind of got into it over, is like, to me, you follow the money, and the one with the most often should be investigated a little bit more. I know I'm for making money, but at the same point, some of these big industries like Trump and Kennedy have nothing to make right now. If they wanted to make money, they would be pushing out a new vaccine, or they would be pushing out a new medication. Right now, they could possibly debunk, things both in the food industry and medical. Some of the biggest money making things out there, their head is going to be like the most sought after. Like people are not happy about this.
Right.
So to me, why would we not trust someone that's not trying to make money? They're not trying to make money. Like, let's listen to hear what they have to say. If they were trying to make money, then I would be really against what was, going on. I just want to hear them out. Let's see what it is.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's always just have an open mind. Like, hear input, research, read, listen, and then form your thoughts. Just jump straight into it. But
And go ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead.
Well, just a book that I would recommend to anyone that's going through this stuff. And it's the first time I've read it. I've got just a tiny bit more, but the total premise of it is basically accepting what is. It's called Loving What Is.
Yeah,
And
I've gotten through half of it.
yeah, it's a super strange book, and it's
Yeah,
been hard for me because
it's a hard read.
I love it. Is well, I would highly recommend Audible because it
Oh,
is like for me. Well, and not just for me listening, but to hear the inflection in the way that she's talking, and like the role playing that they do, it does help. But the moral of the story is reality. If your reality is hard right now, the reality is it is hard right now, and no wishing it away or wishing someone acted a different way or accepted you a different way or believed your belief. That's not the reality. And the sooner that we stop trying to fight with everyone and disagree and change your perspective, well, I'm not changing my perspective, you're not going to change your perspective. So the sooner that we agree to disagree, which was the way that the world was, America was more like agree to disagree. Democrat was a Democrat, a Republican was a Republican, but we all believed in American freedom, health. We all believed in the exact same things, just a little bit different aspect. But to me, the book that I've most enjoyed in that is Loving the Reality, because it's not going to change tomorrow.
nope.
Trump is not going to change his mindset. You know, Hillary's not going to change her mindset. So we might as well not even fight about politics and autism. We can all agree that we just want our children to live their best life, whether they're on the spectrum or not on the spectrum. We would all agree to fix an arm if it was broken. We would all agree to send a child to cancer therapy or whatever their best options were for cancer. So if we could all just agree on the fact that we want our kids best, then maybe we could all get a little bit more forward motion, because it does take different aspects. It does take different thought processes to get anything special done.
Yeah.
So that would be, again, that's what I like about the book, is loving what is the reality is what it is.
It is what it is. That's good. That's good. I think that sums it all up right there, especially on the
Right on.
mindset front. But close out every show with this question: if you could give one piece of advice to any dads, moms, families out there going through a journey similar to yours, what would you give them?
That is super hard because there's so many things. But I think for me, especially parents together, but this would be anybody, is let the other one, because I this is a touchy thing, and I'll try to not go too long, but like, grieving is a thing in this.
Yeah.
And my wife went through it sooner than me. She was realizing what was going on, and I was resistant. So I hit the grief later, because it was this sense of, I can't believe this actually is happening. So since she was already through it and I was hitting, she had to then choose to be okay with, because she'd already resolved. So the grace that needs to be given to your significant other, or whoever, like maybe your parents are helping you raise your kids, you're a single mom or whatever. The grace that needs to be given at the pace of understanding is inordinate and has to be. It comes back to being able to disagree with someone and still love them. So my best word I would come up with right now is finding ways to give grace to those who love you,
Mm.
and that everything is not going to be understood at the same time. And you just have to let people kind of come into that, if you want to make it.
Yeah. No, that's good. We can all extend a little bit more grace for sure.
That's a tough one, but
Totally. Especially for when you when you aim to live to a certain standard, and then those you come in contact with aren't. That's where I have a struggle extending that grace.
and I still struggle with grace. Don't,
Oh
which
yeah.
is not a figured out thing,
Yeah.
but it is definitely like when people are so shut off to what you're doing, and a lot of people do struggle with it. It is hard. And I know that I've hurt feelings. I know that I have done things wrong. I know that I have not heard people out. And so I would ask for the same grace in return, because no one's gone through this. And now there's people that have multiple kids, right? But at the same point, like, we're going through new things every day. And if you've never gone through it, you need to give yourself grace. You can't expect grace from anyone else. That comes back to the loving what is. Like, some people just aren't going to give you grace. So then give them that grace and move on.
Yep.
So, but that is my biggest thing. And I have talked about that, is just trying to figure out not just how to give others, but yourself grace, because there is some regret. There is, like I said, we talked about at the beginning of the show, like, if things come out that maybe point to something that I did, man, I'm going to have to give myself a boatload of grace.
Yeah.
But we can't change what happened. We can only move forward and help others make better choices if that is the case. So in that case, it's just what it is. So yeah. Anyways, dude,
Love what is.
I know you probably got a million things to do, but this has been great.
Oh, this is a blast. These are the fun ones when I don't even look at the notes.
That's
We just
awesome.
go. I mean, it was an hour and 40 minutes. Wonderful.
Yes, I looked up there a little bit ago and I was like, wow, this is definitely the longest one that I've done to date.
And this is how I like it. I don't want to keep it polished. Just let it go. But
Yeah.
Spectrum and Camouflage on all listening platforms, TikTok, Instagram. Got some great content. I love it. But yeah, we'll be in touch. Thanks for being on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, let's talk again soon, man. This has been great. Keep doing what you're doing. You have a lot to be proud of here, and lots of prayers for your wife and your family, and definitely keep me in the loop with the chiropractic stuff.
Yeah.
Interested to hear how that goes.
Yeah, appreciate it.